G'day everyone, Ben the Spider Seeker here. Now I've got a surprise today. It's a package. But before I get going on that, I've got a few enclosures to deal with that have had some mold problems. So we'll start with those. This is the enclosure for my Bedumna longinqua, or grey house spider. And you can see at the back there's quite a lot of mold. Now it looks pretty cool with all the white sort of fluffy bits, but it's not meant to look like that. It's actually meant to look like this. It's just a cheap mat that I got from a hardware store. So we're going to take that out and we're going to essentially clean it out a bit and make it look pretty again. Now I don't usually use gloves when I'm cleaning out enclosures, but I'm not sure what this mold is, so I'm just being careful. Now I carefully remove the lid because you can see the spiders at essentially the very top of the enclosure. And I need to get her out. Ideally, without any damage to her and minimal stress. So let's have a go at that. Now she wasn't exactly being the most cooperative of spiders, preferring to stay with her web on the knife. So I'm just trying to gently coax her off. Now the issue with if I try and force her off is if she holds on too tight she might lose a leg, or if she suddenly decides to grab my thumb and bite me, that might not be a good thing either. So eventually I get her off the web, but she's still not keen on going into the jar. And eventually she sort of just takes a little bit of a leap onto the table, which isn't far enough for her to really take any damage, but I'll be keeping an eye on her soon. And don't worry, I did actually get her. On with the video. So I removed the old matting, and I'm having a look at the rest. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of mold, but I will give that pot a bit of a rinse just to make sure. So now I'm reassembling and putting in the new matting. I'm also putting on a new lid that's not cork. So this one is a bit of an experiment, and it's a temporary solution until I come up with a permanent solution. So now we've got a nice fresh bit of matting at the back for her to build her web on, a new stick, and the pot is nice and rinsed. So now we can let her back in the enclosure. I wasn't cleaning the enclosure for too long, so I didn't feel like I needed to put her in anything temporary other than the jar. So all I'm doing is very carefully undoing the lid, and I'll tip her in at the bottom, and I'm expecting her to run off and hide somewhere after that. And it turns out when I did release her, she just sort of crawled underneath the rock that I've got under the bottom. Now she has since moved on to the matting at the back, so that's a good sign. And she's not moving weird or anything, so I doubt that fall had any negative consequences. But we'll come back to her later on, when she's established her web. This next one, you can actually see the moisture in the jar. So the walls are quite foggy. And those cork lids really aren't providing much ventilation, so I do need to do something about those. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to be dealing with mold constantly. But the spider in this enclosure is a juvenile Latrodectus hasselti, a redback spider. Now this one, at the moment, isn't the typical solid black colour with the red line that you expect of redback spiders. It's a lighter colour with a bit of a pattern about it. As she matures, she will eventually become that solid black colour we know to be a redback. Now, she's a little more cooperative, so she's sitting in the middle of some webbing between the sticks. So I'm just going to use the webbing as a bit of a easy method of catching her. So I'm just using the web as basically the lid of the jar and stretching it over the top so that she stays with the jar. Next up, I'm just pulling everything out. So I'm just having a look at the enclosure, making sure it's all nice and clean. Now you can see some white dots are still on top of the pot. That's not actually mold, that's literally just spider poo, so that's fine too. And once that's all done, she's ready to go back into her enclosure. So again, she's not too cooperative in leaving the jar this time, but she's okay. And being a redback, they tend to dangle by a thread that I can use to maneuver her into a position where I can just sort of latch her onto a stick or onto the pot. So she drops down, and then I can leave her at the bottom, and she can work her way up and build her web. So she'll be happy enough in there. Next up, we have a fairly recent enclosure that I put together. So it's not too bad, but there's still some mold and I'm going to deal with it. This spider is a Cryptochaea species, a long-legged house spider. It actually belongs to the Theridiidae family, the same as the redbacks, so she'll build a nice little mangled web eventually, once she's happy enough in there. But you can see I've used a tire in this one instead of the pot, and overall I'm not actually that keen on the aesthetic. To catch her, all I did was put a container over her and set her aside so I don't bump her. I'm just going to replace everything in the enclosure again. So new matting, and I'm replacing the tire with some bark. So that'll hopefully look much better. So once all that's done, I can release the spider back into the enclosure where she'll be happy, and put the new lid on that provides much more ventilation until I can come up with a permanent solution. Now we can get on to that bit of the video you've been waiting for, the what's in the box moment. So what is in the box? I'm kind of curious myself. Well, not really, I know exactly what I ordered. Now, normally I'm not one for ordering spiders online and getting them via post, mainly because I actually like going out and finding them myself. But these ones were spiders I can't actually just go out and find where I live, and these ones will actually be out and about, a bit more active than my usual burrowing type spiders. So that's the reason I've got a few more with webs as well. I want some that are actually out and visible. And the biggest reason for that is I've got next month a display coming up at the local Rotary markets. So if you happen to be in Goulburn, New South Wales, Australia, on the 12th of October, feel free to swing by the Rotary markets down near the park, in the main street, and say hello. Now, first thing we notice in the box is a lot of paper. So we get rid of the paper. And I count the enclosures to make sure there's as many as I expected, and there's two enclosures. Now one we can already kind of see the legs of. Actually, we can kind of see the legs of both. Both of them are very leggy, and both of them can move very quickly. The other thing that's always in a box is the business card for the place I bought them from. So I'll just leave that somewhere inside. And the other great thing about the website I ordered them from, which is Mini Beast Wildlife, is they provide free care guides. All you've got to do is go to their website and download them. So, we'll set the rubbish aside and see exactly what we've got. The first one says very fast, open carefully. The second one doesn't say that, but you can already see the long legs in there, and it is a very pretty spider. Well, I think so. We'll start off with the very fast one. Now that one is Berigama cordata, or the fireback huntsman. Now she's pretty small at the moment, and she doesn't actually get very big for a huntsman. Their maximum leg span is about 9 centimeters. Now I'm hoping it's a girl, because the girls become this bright orange colour and look quite pretty. And I'm going to quickly set up her enclosure, and we'll put her in. Okay, so, as per the advice on the lid, I'm opening it very carefully. Now conveniently she's on the cardboard that's in the container. So if I'm lucky, she'll stay on the inside, and I'll be able to lift out the cardboard and place her straight in the jar. Now this enclosure will eventually be replaced by essentially an entirely custom made one, because I would like for her to be able to run around on something green, because she does come from a jungle type area, so that would be nice. Now you can already see she darted up the glass a little bit, so I quickly grabbed the lid and put it on, just in case. And I've also put a rubber band around just to make sure that that lid doesn't come off. But there she is there, all nicely happy within her enclosure, even if it is just a temporary one. Next up, I'm going to be setting up the enclosure first. So I've got a water container, and I've already got a fern in this one. So this was an older enclosure that I already had a fern in that I'm now adapting to suit the new spider. So mostly it's just about making sure that whatever water I put in, the spider can use it and safely get out. So I need to go down the paddock and get some rocks. So we find some rocks, we head back, get distracted by some ants, and then we find ourselves some birds. We have some crimson rosellas and a magpie. But we should continue the video. So, just using the rocks to lay around to make sure the spider can get out of the water. And now, we can pull it out. You can see the spider here is looking very nice, very leggy. It is Megadolomedes australianus, the giant water spider. Now, you may think it's already pretty big, but it will get bigger. It'll have a leg span of about 14.5 centimeters, or 7 inches, give or take. So we're going to introduce her to a new enclosure, and I'm probably going to put the greenery in and just see how we go. So I'm just taking off the lid. It doesn't dart out, which is good, but as I take the leaf out and go to put it in the enclosure, it turns around and walks towards my hand, as most spiders do. But just calmly put it where it's meant to go and take your hand away. And it goes straight towards that vertical bark. Now that's a pretty good sign, so I might actually put some more vertical bark walls around the water, so it has something to hang off as it's fishing. Now I'm not going to feed it live fish because that's slightly dangerous, but here you can have a better look. So it's a very pretty spider, lots of patterning and very long legs. And hopefully very happy in its new enclosure. Well, that was my first real sort of unboxing video, and we got it through a few enclosures that had issues with mold. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you back for the next video. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do what you will. For now, I've been Ben the Spider Seeker, and you've been great. Catch you next time.